Good morning. It's 8:30, so we will begin, and I will turn it over to the two of you from the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. Chad Steffen with the Sheriff's Office here with Emergency Management Director Earl Merkowitz. And this morning we're going to talk about just kind of an informational session for the board to understand Xcel Energy's plans with the sirens that are located in the 10-mile EPZ zone. And so we'll kind of brief you on that, what that looks like, what Xcel's plan is moving forward, and so just open it up for questions. Like I said, more of an informational session because in the near future, I'm sure you'll have some constituents coming to you asking questions, and we wanted to have you have the answers that you need. So I'll turn it over to Earl.
Good morning, thank you. So as we sit right now, Xcel Energy currently has 64 outdoor warning sirens within Goodhue County. They're broken up into two label groups. 26 of them are labeled as considered in the city of Red Wing, and then 38 are labeled as Goodhue County sirens. It's just a way that Homeland Security Emergency Management from the state of Minnesota and Xcel Energy kind of delineates them. It doesn't necessarily specifically dictate where they actually reside within the county. Right now, Xcel Energy plans to decommission all the outdoor weather warning sirens within Goodhue, Dakota, and Pierce counties, along with the other nuclear power plant up in Monticello. They plan to decommission all the ones up in Wright and Sherburne counties also in 2024. As of right now, Xcel Energy plans to replace this warning method with a combination of iPause and then Everbridge Resident Connect as another platform for redundancy backup notification if there was ever an issue at the Prairie Island Nuclear Generating Plant. This is just kind of a map for reference so you can kind of understand where they lie. This is a map that is generated by the state of Minnesota. It shows all the sirens within Goodhue County, but also the sirens within Pierce and Dakota counties also. Just a little bit further breakdown of kind of where the sirens reside in different townships. I think this is something that this group's definitely going to want to understand. So it just kind of breaks down where we have the different sirens that reside within our county. And again, the ones that I'm breaking down here are the ones that are labeled as Goodhue County sirens. There is, like I said, a number of them, 26 additional sirens that are located within the city of Red Wing also. But the last bullet there has 5 of them located within the city of Red Wing city limits, but those are technically labeled as Goodhue County. Again, that's just a map label that the state of Minnesota puts on them. Right now, Goodhue County PSAP sets off all sirens throughout the county, including the ones that are located outside of the EPZ. So the different municipalities that have sirens, they are set off by Goodhue County PSAP. As of right now, we as a county own 0 sirens. We don't have any that are owned by the county itself. They're either owned by either Xcel Energy or the local municipalities throughout the county. And then this is just a list of the communities throughout the county that actually do own their own sirens.
So the ones that are in response to the dam on Billsby, are those owned by Dakota County, or are they owned in conjunction with Dakota County?
Those are, so Dakota County has some, and the city of Cannon Falls has the others.
Okay, so none of those are Goodhue County related to that. But yet we have a fund for that and take care of them.
It's part of the maintenance on the ongoing upkeep of them, yes.
Okay.
As of right now, Xcel Energy has offered for the city and townships to be able to take over the sirens if they choose to do this. They're saying as of right now to assume responsibility for those. They're saying it's going to be no cost for the township or the city if they choose to take responsibility for that siren. Some information that is good to know. Each siren roughly will cost about $500 to $1,000 to maintain if any city or township was to take over control or maintenance of that siren. And something that the Xcel provides is the remote monitoring to confirm that that siren is actually operational, the battery condition is good in the siren. That is approximately $5,000 per location to monitor on an annual basis.
Sorry, just backing up for a moment. So on Welch Township, does I see 17. Does that mean it's so wide open they've got 17 sirens? And then the next one, so each location would cost $500 to $1,000 to maintain annually, so that would be like $17,000, or half of that if it's 500.
Yep.
And then each location would cost $5,000 to monitor. Is that so? That would be 5,000 times 17.
Potentially, yes. There is a potential that as you group a number of them together, Nelcom, or the company that does do the monitoring, Nelcom, would potentially do a break in that and offer a discount if we do several of them together. But it's potentially, if there's only one, they price it out per site as of right now.
Okay, thank you.
No matter what happens with these sirens going forward, whether the other sirens throughout the county continue to be maintained by those municipalities, or some of these are assumed by townships, one way or another, Goodhue County PSAP will continue to set off the sirens, whichever sirens continue to exist throughout the county.
I have a question. So can you explain a little bit about iPause and Everbridge? Because I think people are going to want to know if they really need to continue the sirens that they have with this new system.
Sure, I'll take that, Commissioner. iPause is the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. And so basically, I'll summarize it as this. Since you've likely received an Amber Alert sometime in the last several years, that is used with the iPause system. And so the iPause system is actually in the plans today, in addition to sirens. So a wireless emergency alert that you would receive on your cell phone would be one way of doing it. The other way that iPause is integrated locally is with our Code Red system, which is subscriber-based. Subscriber-based being a resident would subscribe to receive those notifications, whereas an iPause wireless alert hits all users, whether they subscribed or not, in a geo-fenced area. And I'll let Earl speak on Everbridge.
So with Everbridge, it's very similar to Code Red, which is the system we use within our county here. It's a subscriber-based system. What Everbridge would potentially do for Xcel Energy is actually go out and locate the subscribers within the geographic boundaries based on tax information and stuff like that, and they would actually sign them up into the system. And it's a subscriber-based system, much like our Code Red system we use. It's just a different company, a different platform. It works almost the exact same way as Code Red. It's a different brand, essentially.
So is that a wireless alert also?
It's a wireless, it can be an email, and and it can be subscribed into landline phones if the person subscribes into that information into the system.
Okay, so the townships will need to decide if they think they need an auditory that they can hear siren on top of, like, iPause. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if I can have about 5 minutes to put in layman terms, everything Earl just said to you. So about a year ago, Xcel has been petitioning the federal government, if you will, and their regulatory authorities to decommission the sirens. As you could imagine, when you're looking at budgets, much like the county's budget, anything you can do to take out of that budget is phenomenal. And so they have finally gotten the approval that if they use a combination of iPause alerting and Everbridge alerting for their 10-mile EPZ zones, emergency preparedness zone, that they can decommission the sirens. From a business perspective, I don't blame Xcel Energy for making that decision. My concern is when I first heard that is, okay, fortunately, since these sirens have existed in the county, they've never had to be activated for any kind of nuclear response or emergency. They have solely been activated for the monthly testing and any severe weather warnings that the county pushes out. So with Xcel, as soon as next month, wanting to decommission and take down these sirens, my immediate concern was, what about Farmer Bob out there who's had his siren for 40, 60 years? He's dependent on that, and now it's being taken down. There's no recommendation or decisions being asked of the board. As you heard Earl say moments ago here, that the current sirens that are in the county are owned by the city or municipality or community that they are in, unless you are in the 10-mile emergency preparedness zone, then they're owned by Xcel Energy. One way we could look at that is, Well, we've really benefited from the plant being here and having that ability to have 100 and some sirens in 10 miles of the plant, because truly, we've only used them for weather events. Goodhue County does not own any sirens, 0. The county does activate them through the Emergency Communications Center, and we do work with NELCOM to ensure those sirens are active when they need to be. And so hopefully that helps understand it. And so when Xcel came to us and mentioned this in a couple different meetings, it was like, well, we're going to decommission them unless the community that they sit in want to buy them. So the first question many of us asked for, well, what are these things going to cost? Well, I don't know. We'll sell them to for $1. We just want to offload them because they want that off their books, right? That's about $500,000 a year they could probably save. I would say if I was sitting here in front of the City of Red Wing City Council, I would say you probably want to purchase some of these and then continue to maintain them, because Zumbrota, Pine Island, Denison, Kenyon, Wanamingo all own their own community alerting sirens, and I wouldn't see why Red Wing wouldn't want to do the same. So with that being said, is you're going to likely have townships that are probably going to come to you and say, hey, what should we do here? Do we maintain this thing? Do we take it off the hands? This is a lot of money to remotely monitor it. And there are other options than using Xcel's vendor, NELCOM, to monitor that. But it will be a question. That is my concern about the decommissioning of the sirens, is the dependency that our residents in these remote areas have gotten for weather alerting.
I'm not sure if this is true of other townships, but Wakuta Township has one that Xcel put in, but they also have one they purchased because it was outside of the 10-mile radius. So they have 2 sirens, actually, and maybe other townships do as well. I have no idea.
Question, sorry. Is there any, if a person doesn't have a cell phone, is there any sort of compromise in there? Is like a pager system for a weather somehow to alert them? Saying, okay, your tower is going offline. Well, I'm not going to carry a cell phone. Okay. What are their other options? Is there anything out there?
Other than looking at the sky, sir, I really don't know if there is any other options, right? There's radio, there's rural parts of the county in your districts today that don't have sirens, and most of those residents can figure out if the weather's turning south or not. Unfortunately, the majority of residents today carry some kind of cell phone. Even landlines were down to only 8% that received any kind of emergency warning from the government in the last year. So to be blunt, there's not really another option, right? I understand the move towards, part of me was like, I'm not really upset about this either at the same time, because how many times have we all heard the sirens and we look around and go, I don't. We tend to ignore the sirens when they come on or go off, right? And so the technology today with smartphones, even dated smartphones that aren't all that technical, have the ability to receive that. And the National Weather Service has gotten very good at putting directed warnings when it comes to weather out with detailed messages than versus just blaring an outdoor siren.
I don't have a question, but I really think, my question really would be, should we be having a meeting with these townships with this same information and having them in and talk about it? Because from their perspective, most residents are going to say, well, the county's taken away our sirens. If you're used to them, as you probably are in Vesa, Featherstone, Welch, or Hay Creek, and they go away, nobody likes when something gets taken away. and I get the cost is for for any of those townships with 5 or 17, that's huge. The other question is the 5 that are Red Wing city limits, which we're listing, or the state's listing as Goodhue County. What does that, where do they locate, and what does that mean from our perspective? Because that's the 5 that I see we have to answer a question about.
Yeah, so I'll answer those questions a little bit in reverse. So the ones that are just labeled as the city of Red Wing, it's just more or less the way the state of Minnesota labels the two different sirens. On the map, they either have a G or an R labeled next to them. And there's a number of them that are listed there that are actually within the city of Red Wing city limits, but are labeled as G sirens. So it's a way they break them down. Like I said, there's a number of other sirens that are also within the city of Red Wing city limits that are designated as R as Red Wing sirens. Does that?
Well, I would wonder if it was because Red Wing annexed that area, and before, when the first sirens were put in, were they then not within the city of Red Wing, and now they are? I don't know that, because I don't know the location. That map is pretty small for me to look at. But I wonder if that's how they ended up being, so they couldn't call them township anymore, they couldn't call them city anymore. Are they now just gonna brand them as county?
What I'm seeing in the map, yes, they're all in very close proximity, and they are most likely areas that have been annexed by the city of Red Wing. And just on the map, the state of Minnesota has continued to label them as a G siren versus an R siren, and it has changed their numbering system that they already have on their master map within the state of Minnesota. I don't have that 100% for sure for you, but that is what I'm looking at based on the location of those G sirens that are actually within the city of Red Wing limits. They're all very in close proximities, and they're in areas that have seen recent growth within the city of Red Wing.
I think, Commissioner, it's important it's important that we came and provided you this information, because you're gonna have some of your constituents come to you and say, the county's taking away. And it's important for you to realize that the county's not taking anything away. Xcel Energy is taking something away. And it's up to their local townships if they wanna continue that service, and thus they would have to pay for it. What I would say is Goodhue County never wants to get into the business of the siren, because let's say, hypothetically, the county board said, we're gonna take this over tomorrow. I can almost guarantee you someone in Roscoe Township, some of these other townships, are gonna say, where's my siren?
I totally agree with you. That's why I said I think we need to have a meeting with specifically those townships and talk about it, and maybe even the city of Red Wing. I mean, the city obviously knows more, has a bigger footprint in this, but I just think hearing it from you guys in emergency management and explaining it and helping those township officers be able to be that other sounding board and not say, well, just call your county commissioner because they're the ones that are screwing this up. Having them understand the process that Xcel's doing, I just think it would be wise.
Yeah, and that's something that we would definitely be willing to be at those meetings if we need to provide the information, to provide a similar presentation. And that was the intent, is to really inform this group so that you're aware that when the townships are reaching out to you, that you understand the background on this, because in the very near future, Xcel's gonna need those answers of whether a township's gonna wanna continue that siren or not, and whether the township's gonna assume that responsibility. So as that information, those timelines come closer, that's why we want this group to be informed, so that you're aware that this isn't something out of left field.
And just to answer your concern, Commissioner, is yes, but this is step one, and then we were gonna approach the townships in conjunction with Xcel in the months and days to come.
I have a question. Obviously, since I'm looking at Welch Township with 17, which far exceeds any of the 1 or the 5, so I'm going to hear about it from Welch. One question is, would they have to, if they chose to keep any, would they have to keep all 17, or can you put them in little sections so maybe they get themselves down to 5? And the other question I have is, do you have a time frame as to when this is going to happen?
As for which sirens you want to keep, it is purely up to the person that assumes if they want to keep one of them or all of them or randomly. It's how they want to do it. And part of the information is we could even provide information on the coverage of those two areas that to maybe get the maximum coverage for population. We do have access to maps that show the auditory output and kind of rough coverage of that area. So that's something that would maybe make a more informed decision if a township doesn't want to keep them all, if they want to keep, say, 4 or 5 and maximize the coverage. That's information that we can also provide, so they can pick and choose. It can be 0 to all of them. It's really up to that township and what they're willing to assume.
Right. And do we have a time frame?
Yeah, so Chad had said earlier, you know, Xcel came to us early spring talking about this, and they keep bringing it up almost at every meeting that we have with them. The timeline that they're nearest providing to me right now is probably summer of 2024 is when they would actually start decommissioning, meaning taking the sirens physically out of the ground. I've been assured that our sirens will be part of our rep exercise this summer, which is in May and June. So I'm anticipating that they won't actually decommission any of them until probably July.
All right.
There's no firm timeline.
And if the townships have any specific issues, do they reach out to you? Do they reach out to Xcel? Where would they go to get the best information?
I would say work that information through me because I'm dealing directly with Xcel on that
Perfect.
information and how that process, that turnover of that siren would go, if that's the information they're looking for.
Yeah. Thank you.
To kind of piggyback on what you said, I think especially for like Hay Creek, a little bit of Featherstone, especially Welch, and maybe even Vesa, you know, where you have dead zones for cell coverage is where you'd want to keep a siren because there are dead zones out there. We know. We just need to figure out where they are. So I think it really takes it's not a all or nothing approach, and it's not a we like this one, not that one. It's you really got to think about where you have cell coverage, because if you don't, that's where you need the siren.
I would just note that the annual meetings for townships are in March, and at that meeting, the electors would really end up deciding if they supported it or not. And so I think we need to get the information clearly out to the townships before those March meetings, and they need to get it out to the electors so they can have a discussion at those March meetings about that.
Yeah, Commissioner, I think that's a great idea, and like I said, I'll be honest with you, it's been a struggle to try to get some of the information out of Xcel about when, how much, all those specific details. When I first heard about this in the spring, it was, this is gonna happen next month. And I said, whoa, timeout government doesn't work that fast.
Yeah, and I would just ask that if you can, let them know the townships will have their meetings. I think it's the second Tuesday in March. I'm not positive about that, but, and a little bit of time after that before they would do anything.
We will most certainly coordinate that as best as we can. At
Thank
the end
you.
of the day, it's kind of up to Xcel since they own the siren. But,
Right.
So but what I'm trying to say is we're pushing them, if you will, to
Yes.
get us the information because we know how this impacts our communities.
Right, but hopefully they want to be a good neighbor and would understand the rationale for that, yeah.
Beyond the annual meetings at townships, we also have early in February, we usually have the township officers meeting in Zumbrota. That'd be good to have something about this at that meeting. So all townships hear it.
We would love to be invited, Commissioner, if you're inviting.
You're invited.
All right, somehow it seems to me that if we're waiting till February or March, though, that's way too long. So we need to at least get the information out to our own townships prior to that, correct?
I agree, I think.
Right.
I would say if you guys can get something scheduled to meet with those, and I'd attend that meeting if you're having it with those township people earlier rather than later, and then again hit them so that all the rest of the townships hear it at that township officer meeting, and then, because you're exactly right. The people in Roscoe will say, where the hell's our siren? Or the people in Kenyon, where's our siren? You know that will happen, because I get it. I get calls from people who move out to the country from the city, and they're like, wow, there's bad weather, and I didn't have any siren. Yep, you don't have a siren out here. Figure it out on your phone, because that's where it's going to come from. So.
Very good.
Any other questions from the board? Well, thank you very, very much.